The rebel base was hidden inside a canyon, deep within the green heart of Elysis. As Zyra's small ship landed on a metal pad, dozens of resistance fighters came out to welcome them. Some saluted. Others just stared in surprise. A few stared. At Lars, the only human among them. General Taya stepped forward. "You made it." Zyra nodded. "We escaped." "But Vorkin is growing stronger. His army grows every day." "And we found proof," Lars added, holding up a data chip he took. "From the prison. It holds files on his war plans, his spies, even his next targets." Taya took the chip and smiled. "Then we finally have what we need to stop him." The final plan that night, in the main command room, Zyra stood beside a large table covered with maps, glowing markers, and holograms of enemy ships. She spoke with calm power. "Vorkin is not just after the star map. He wants control over everything, my world, my people, and now even Earth. If we don't stop him here, it will be too late." Lars listened carefully. He had never led a battle, but now people listened to him too. His ideas helped fix communication signals. His knowledge of machines helped build better shields. They had one chance. Vorkin's main power station was located in the old Capital Tower, once a place of peace and learning. Now it was turned into a weapon hub. "We go at sunrise," Zyra said, "in and out. Quick, silent, and strong." Everyone agreed, quiet before the storm later. That night, Lars walked outside alone. The stars above Elysis were brighter than Earth's. The wind was cool, and the forest trees swayed gently in the dark. He heard footsteps behind him. It was Zyra. She stood beside him quietly for a moment. Then she said, "When I was younger, I used to dream about leaving this place. I thought the stars would give me freedom, but I was wrong." Lars looked at her. "Why?" "Because freedom isn't out there," she replied softly. "It's here when someone chooses to stand by your side, no matter what." She turned. "To him, you didn't have to help me back then, or come with me now. But you did. Because of you, I didn't face this alone." Lars smiled. "I didn't come for adventure. Came because you mattered to me." They stood quietly, and in that silence, something special passed between them. A connection that didn't need words anymore. The battle for Elysis sat sunrise. The rebel ships flew low under radar. Lars sat beside Zyra in the lead craft. His heart beat fast, but he was ready. The Capital Tower stood tall in the distance, wrapped in dark metal and guarded by drones. "Remember," Zyra said to the team through the comms, "our goal is to disable the main power source. Without it, Vorkin loses control." They landed in a hidden tunnel and entered the base through an old underground passage. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. Suddenly, alarms screamed. Lights flashed red. They had been spotted. "Keep moving," Taya shouted. Lars followed Zyra as they ran through narrow halls. Blaster fire exploded behind them. Sparks flew. Zyra led them to the control room. Inside were power lines, screens, and a giant red core in the center. Lars ran to the control panel and began to work. Wires hissed and systems beeped. Zyra and Taya defended the room from incoming guards. "Almost there," Lars shouted suddenly. Vorkin himself appeared in the doorway holding a weapon. His voice was cold. "It ends here." A choice made. Zyra stepped in front of Lars. "You'll have to go through me." Vorkin laughed. "You should have stayed hidden. You don't belong with him. He's just a human. Weak." But Zyra didn't move. "He's stronger than you'll ever be. He has something you'll never understand, heart." Vorkin raised his weapon. But before he could fire, a blast hit him from the side. Taya had circled behind him. He fell to the ground, stunned. Lars pressed the final command. The power core blinked and shut down. All across the capital, weapons died. Fell from the sky. Ships lost control. The battle was over. Vorkin was captured. His army scattered. The war had ended. A hero's welcome days later. Elysis was free. The cities began to rebuild. The people returned. And Lars stood on a grand balcony beside Zyra, looking. Over the silver streets, Banners flew in the wind. Zira turned to the crowd. We did not win because of power. We won because we stood together. And because one human reminded us that kindness can change the stars. The people cheered. Zira looked at Lars. You didn't just save me, you saved all of us. He smiled. We saved each other. A new path later, as the sun set behind the hills of Elysis, Zira and Lars stood alone in the garden. She said, "There's still so much to do. My people will rebuild. Peace won't be easy, but I want you here." Beside me, Lars looked at her. "You don't want me to return to Earth?" Zira smiled. "You can go if you want. But if you stay, I promise you won't walk this path alone." Lars looked at the sky, then at her. "Then I stay." They stood hand in hand, facing the stars. Not as rescuer and rescued, not as human and alien, but as two souls who found something rare, a bond strong enough to change the future. The desert was quiet, with nothing but sand, heat, and silence. Lars lived alone in a small repair station, far from the nearest colony. People rarely visited. That's why he noticed the sound immediately, an explosion in the sky. He rushed outside and looked up. A ship was crashing. It tore through the clouds, leaving behind smoke and fire. Lars ran to his old buggy, started the engine, and drove toward where the ship had fallen. He didn't know why. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the need to help. All he knew was that someone might be in trouble. The crash site was about 6 kilometers away. When Lars arrived, the wreckage was still burning. The ship had smashed into a rocky hill, half buried in dust and metal pieces. He jumped out of the buggy and searched through the debris. Then he saw her. A girl, no. A woman lay unconscious beside the broken hull. She wasn't human. Her skin was a pale bluish purple, and her ears were small and shaped differently, like a soft curve of art. Her hair was silver, tangled and full of dust. Her outfit was torn, and she had a deep wound on her shoulder. She looked weak, but she was breathing. Lars didn't hesitate. He picked her up carefully and placed her in the passenger seat of his buggy. Her skin felt cold. He didn't know who or what she was, but she was alive, and she needed help. Back at his outpost, Lars cleaned her wounds and wrapped them. He used some basic med kits he had, not knowing if they worked on alien biology. She was unconscious for 2 days. During that time, he gave her water through a dropper and wiped her forehead when she sweated. Sometimes she whispered in a strange language, too weak to speak clearly. On the 3rd day, her eyes opened. Lars was sitting near the bed, reading an old book. He looked up when he heard a faint gasp. She sat up quickly, scared. He raised his hands slowly. "Easy. You're safe," he said softly. "I found you after the crash." She stared at him, confused and cautious. Her violet eyes scanned the room. Then, slowly, she looked down at her shoulder. It was bandaged. She moved it slightly and winced. "You helped me?" she asked, her voice quiet and uncertain. Her accent was strange, but her words were clear. Lars nodded. "Yeah, I tried. You were hurt bad." She stared at him for a few seconds, then lowered her head. "Thank you." For the next few days, she stayed in his outpost. She didn't speak much, but Lars could see her slowly getting better. He gave her food, simple meals like bread, boiled vegetables, and water. She ate carefully, always polite, always quiet. Lars didn't ask too many questions. He felt that she didn't trust him fully yet. Sometimes at night, he saw her standing outside, looking at the stars. There was sadness in her eyes, as if she had lost something important. One evening, while Lars was fixing a broken circuit board, she sat beside him. "My name is Zira," she said. "I was running away." Lars looked up. "From what?" She hesitated. "From people who wanted to use me. For something I didn't agree to. I stole that ship and crashed when they followed me." Lars didn't ask more. He didn't need to. He understood that she had suffered. He just nodded and handed her a tool. "You can help if you want. Keeps the mind busy." She smiled for the first time. It was soft, almost shy. I'd like that. Days passed. Zira became stronger. She started helping with repairs, asking questions about tools, machines, and Earth's strange ways. Sailors found her curious and intelligent. She picked things up quickly and was careful with her hands. Sometimes they would talk for hours about stars, about choices, about freedom. Then, one morning, she was gone. Lars woke up and found the bed empty. Her clothes were folded neatly. The room was quiet. He rushed outside, but saw no one. Her ship's remains were still there, untouched. But near the workbench, something new appeared, a small symbol. Carved into the wooden, elegant swirl with a star in the middle, Zira had made it. A message. Maybe a thank you. Maybe a promise. Lars stood there for a long time, staring at the mark. He felt a strange emptiness inside. He didn't even know if she was safe. But deep inside, he hoped she had found her freedom. Years passed. Lars returned to his quiet life. He continued to repair machines, live simply, and avoid cities. Sometimes he would sit near the workbench and trace the carved symbol with his finger, wondering where she went. And then, one night, everything changed again. It started with a strange sound, a humming noise, deep and smooth, unlike any ship he had ever heard. He stepped outside and saw a light in the sky, slowly descending. It landed not far from his station. The door opened. A tall figure stepped out. Her armor shimmered in the moonlight. She looked stronger, more confident. But Lars recognized her. Eyes instantly, it was Zira. She walked toward him calm but serious. Her eyes held something powerfully motion, memory, purpose. You saved my life once, she said, stopping in front of him. I've come to return the favor. Your life is about to change, Lars. He blinked in surprise, frozen by the shock of seeing her again, and then the sky behind her flashed red. Another ship was coming, and this time it wasn't friendly. The night air around Lars's lonely outpost trembled with the sound of two alien ships. One was Zira's sleek, silver craft, silent and smooth, sitting gently on the sand. The other dropped from the clouds like a black arrow, engines roaring, red lights flashing. Dust spiraled up, stinging Lars's eyes. Zira stayed calm. Her voice was steady, yet urgent. Get inside my ship, Lars, quickly. He hesitated. The last time he had been in any spacecraft was years ago, when he repaired a cargo hauler's landing struts. This was different. This was dangerous. But he trusted Zira. He always had. So he ran inside. Cool blue lights lined a narrow corridor. The panels hummed with energy. Zira sealed the hatch, pressed a glowing symbol, and the vessel lifted 10 meters above the desert floor, just as a beam of crimson plasma hit the spot where they had stood. Thunder rolled. Sand sprayed against the hull. Who are they? Lars asked, gripping a rail for balance. A people. Zira answered, but loyal to a warlord named Vorkon. He wants control, and he wants me for my bloodline, and for my knowledge of certain star routes. Her eyes bright and steady met his. He will do anything to capture me and anyone who helped me. Lars swallowed. Then I guess I'm in trouble too. You were in trouble the day you saved me, she said, a sad smile flashing across her face. But you also became part of something greater. A narrow escape Zira guided the ship higher. The black craft followed, spitting lines of red fire. The entire cabin shook. Metal groaned. Lars tasted smoke in the air. He tried not to panic. Zira flicked the switches and pulled a lever. The engine pitch changed, and suddenly they shot forward. Stars stretched into thin, white lines beyond the window as the vessel leaped toward the upper atmosphere. How can we outrun them? Lars asked, bracing himself. We don't outrun, Zira replied. We vanish. She pressed her palm too. A blue pad. A faint ripple spread across the hull. Some kind of cloaking field. Lars watched through the cockpit glass. The stars' shapes seemed to bend around them, as if light itself refused to reveal their location. Behind them, the black craft slowed, confused, then fired randomly into empty space. He could not see its target anymore. Within minutes, Zyra's ship reached orbit. Weightlessness pulled at Lars's stomach. Yet the cabin gravity field steadied him quickly, keeping his boots firm on the deck. He released a slow breath, feeling both amazed and terrified. A promise of answer Zyra guided the ship onto a quiet orbital path, away from trade lanes and satellites. Only then did she switch the engines to a low hum and turn to face Lars fully. He studied her again. She wore form-fitting light armor of silver and pale jade. A crest shimmered on her chest, played a stylized star within a flowing swirl. The same shape she had carved into his workbench long ago. "I thought that symbol was just your signature," he said. "It is also my family mark," Zyra explained. "My mother was a scholar. My father served on our ruling council. When Vorkon began his rise, he promised to strengthen our empire. But he wanted power over every bloodline, including mine. I refused and arranged bond with him and fled. That crash years ago was my first attempt to escape." Lars pictured the frightened girl he had carried from the wreckage. "And you disappeared because you didn't want me in danger?" "Yes," Zyra said softly. "But I traced your life from afar. You never told anyone about me, kept my secret. That loyalty means more than you know." She folded her arms, armor plates glinting. "Now I must ask for another favor." Lars gave a tired laugh. "Saving you again?" Her lips curved. "Not only me, my world. The hidden war unfolds, Zyra." Touched a console. A hologram flared up, showing 2 clusters of stars linked by blue lines for trade routes. One cluster glowed gold, the other pulsed red. "Gold dots are free worlds," Zyra said. "Red marks Vorkon's control." The red zones spread each week. She zoomed closer to a pale blue planet, her home, Elysis. Elysis still resists. She continued, "But defense is failing. My return could rally the neutral houses. With new allies, I can stop war before it scorches half the sector." She tapped a lone white dot, Lars's desert outpost on remote Earth, tiny compared to the galactic map. "This is where hope began," she whispered. Lars scratched his chin. "I'm no soldier. I fix things. Engines, wires. Nothing heroic." "Okay," Zyra shook her head. "Heroes aren't always fighters. Gave kindness when no one watched. You can give it again in ways you can't yet imagine." He thought about the quiet years, dusty sunsets, lonely meals, nights asking the stars if he had done the right thing, letting her go. Maybe this was the answer. Maybe the universe now asked him to risk more for a greater purpose. Preparing for pursuits. Vera. Ship carried a small living area, 2 bunks, a galley, and a compact armory. She issued Lars a lightweight vest that hardened into protective plating when powered. "Just in case," she said. "It reacts to energy strikes, nothing heavier. But it will keep you alive." He slipped it on, oddly comforted by the soft hum against his chest. Next, she handed him a handheld multi-tool part scanner, part welder, part cutting torch. "Fix any lock, patch any line," she explained. "I designed it based on the old tools at your outpost." Lars grinned. "Now that feels familiar." Together, they checked ship systems, power cores, thrusters, stealth panels. Lars's sharp eye found 2 cracked coolant lines. He fused them quickly with the torch. Zyra watched him work, her look half respect, half fondness, but time was thin. Far below, sensors showed Vorkon's pursuit craft still prowling Earth's skies. Soon more would arrive. "We have one shot," Zyra said. "I'm opening a hidden gate near Saturnan, ancient jump ring, only my family knows. It leads close to Elysis. Once we pass through, Vorkon's network loses us," Les Lars said. "He learns about the gate from a spy." Zyra's face hardened. "Then we prepare for a fight." A moment of quiet before departure. Zyra dimmed cabin lights. She invited Lars to the viewing window. Earth rolled beneath them, a blue-white jewel, clouds swirling like slow dancers. Lars felt a pang of love for his lonely planet. He wondered when nor if he would see it again. Zyra touched the glass. "You rescued me here. Whatever happens next, I will protect you, Lars. That is my oath." He turned to her, surprised by the fierce light in her violet eyes. "No," he said gently. We protect each other. A silent beat past respect, friendship, something deeper not yet named. Into the stars Zira took her seat. Jump ring in 2 hours. Lars strapped in beside her. The hum of engines rose, steady and sure. Outside, faint sparks marked incoming. Blips on the radar. Vorkin's hunters. Zyra's fingers danced across controls. The ship angled away from Earth, thrusters flaring. Lars felt the push against his back, the rush of purpose in his heart. Ahead lay dark space, ancient gates, and a war he never imagined. Beside him stood Zira, the girl he had saved, the woman who had returned. The ally, ready to change his life forever. The stars awaited their choice. The ship moved fast through the silence of space. Stars stretched like threads around them. Lars sat beside Zyra, watching the controls light up with colors and signals he couldn't understand. But he trusted her hands. She knew exactly what. She was doing jump ring in 5 minutes, she said calmly. Lars nodded. He still couldn't believe he was here floating above Saturn, ready to leave the solar system with an alien woman he once saved. A woman who now claimed his life was tied to a secret war. Everything felt like a dream. The danger was very real. A quiet alarm beeped. Zyra narrowed her eyes. They're closer than I thought. On the screen appeared 3 red dots. Enemy. Ships, small, fast, and closing in. They must have tracked our heat signature, she muttered, adjusting controls quickly. What now? Lars asked. We reach the jump ring before they do. If we don't, we're trapped in this system. Lars tightened his seatbelt and gripped the armrest. He wasn't a soldier, but he wasn't afraid. Not with Zyra beside him. The ancient gate, the jump ring, appeared in the distance, a giant circular structure floating between Saturn's outer moons. It looked like a metal halo, silent and old, with strange symbols glowing along its edge. Lars had never seen anything like it. Zyra activated a command. The ring lit up with a blue pulse. Space inside the circle began to shimmer like water. That's our door, she said. Once we enter, it closes behind us. But the enemy, they'll try to follow. We have to time it right. The ship moved closer, but the enemy was faster. The red dots on the radar blinked rapidly. They were charging weapons. Zyra gritted her teeth. Hold on. She pushed the throttle forward. The ship shook. Lasers flashed past them, some grazing the shields. The cockpit filled with warning lights. One blast hit near the rear engine. Sparks flew. The ship spun slightly before Zyra corrected it. We can make it, she whispered. Lars looked at the glowing ring ahead. It grew bigger, brighter. Then they crossed through. A safe distance. Everything changed in a second. The stars outside became unfamiliar. The light inside the ring disappeared. The enemy ships were gone. They had made it. Zyra let out a breath. Her hands trembled for a moment, then became still again. We're safe for now. Lars sat back, heart still racing. Where? Are we close to my home system? Elysis is 2 jumps away. But we need repairs first. Lars stood and looked at the damage. Panels were burnt, a coolant line was hissing, and the rear stabilizer showed a red warning light. He rolled up his sleeves. Then let's fix it. Pairs in deep space era guided the ship to a quiet asteroid field and parked. Inside a dark cave-like hollow within one of the large rocks. It was hidden from scanners. For the next few hours, Lars worked. He patched the coolant pipe, replaced 2 burned-out panels, and reconnected a loose wire in the rear thruster. Zyra helped, handing tools and scanning systems. You're good. At this, she said, Lars smiled. I've been doing this most of my life. Ships are easier than people. Zyra tilted her head. You fixed a part of me, remember? Her voice was soft. Lars looked at her and saw something in her eyes, gratitude and something deeper. They didn't speak for a moment. The silence between them was peaceful, secrets of the past later. As they sat beside the small heater in the ship's galley, Zyra shared more of her story. I wasn't just running from Vorkin, she said. I was carrying something important to Star Map hidden in my mind. It leads to a source of energy older than any empire. That's why Vorkon wants me. Lars frowned. And you never told your people? She shook her head. Didn't trust. The council, some of them feared that power. Others might have sold the map to the highest bidder. I hid it, hoping to find someone I could trust. She looked at Lars again. You were the only one who helped me without wanting anything back. Lars felt a mix of pride and fear. He was just a mechanic. But now he was part of something that could change the galaxy. Bond in silence that night, they didn't sleep much. They sat quietly near the window, watching the stars move past. Lars asked about her world, what the skies looked like, what food they ate, what kind of music they had. Zyra smiled as she told stories of glowing waterfalls, crystal cities, and giant flying birds. Her voice had life in it again. She asked about Earth, about Lars's life, his quiet outpost, his love for machines. It sounds lonely, she said. It was, he replied, until you came back. They didn't say more after that. They both understood something had changed between them. A message intercepted, just as they prepared to leave the asteroid. Strange signal came through. It wasn't Vorkin, but it wasn't friendly either. Zyra's eyes widened. It's a bounty. Transmission. The message was clear. A reward for Lars's capture. His name, his face, his location. Someone had leaked information. Lars stared at the screen. I've never even left Earth. Why would anyone want me? Because you're with me, Zyra said, standing up. I think you hold the star map. 2. Lars looked down. What now? Zyra met his gaze firmly. Now we fight back. The silence inside the ship was heavy. The glowing screen still showed Lars's face with bold letters in a language he couldn't read, but he understood the meaning. There was now a price on his head. Zyra stood close, staring at the data. Her jaw was tight, her eyes sharp. This message spread fast, she said. Someone wants you taken alive, which means they want to use you to find me. Lars sat down slowly. I was just a quiet mechanic. Now I'm a target. Zyra looked at him. You're more than that now. You're part of this. He nodded. I know. I'm not going back. Hidden in the stars, they left the asteroid field quietly, engines on low power to avoid being detected. Zyra took a different path through space, avoiding main trade lanes. In military zones, she knew the stars well, and Lars was amazed at how carefully she guided the ship between dangers. For a few days, no one followed them. Inside the ship, time moved slowly but safely. Lars continued helping with small repairs and upgrades. Zyra gave him simple lessons about her language, her people, and the galaxy beyond Earth. Every evening, he sat near the large viewing window and watched the stars together. One night, while watching a nearby comet pass by, Lars said quietly, I never thought I'd leave Earth. And I never thought I'd see you again? Zyra turned to him. I never thought anyone would save me, then expect nothing in return. Lars looked at her face. Peaceful, calm, but thoughtful. Why did you come back after all these years? She paused before answering. Because I never forgot you. And because I didn't want to face this fight alone. An unspoken connection. As more days passed, they started understanding each other without words. A quick glance, a half smile, a shared laugh over a broken panel, or a strange Earth story Lars would tell. One morning, while Zyra adjusted the shields, Lars stood beside her. Their hands touched by accident. Neither moved away. They looked at each other for a moment. Her violet eyes met his, full of quiet strength. There was no need for big speeches. The feeling between them was clear. It had grown slowly, naturally. Like light, slowly warming cold metal. It was not just friendship anymore. Trouble. Then, but peace didn't last. A signal burst through their ship's warning system. An unknown vessel was approaching fast. Zyra checked the screen. It was small, fast, and armed. Not Vorkin's main fleet, she said, but a bounty hunter. Paid to find you. Lars stood beside her. Then we stopped running. Zyra glanced at him. You're serious? I've seen enough. If we keep running, they'll never stop. So let's fight smart. She smiled. Then let's prepare. A clever trap. They landed on a moon with sharp rocks and narrow valleys. Zyra had used this place before. She knew where signals couldn't reach and how to hide their heat signature. Together, they set a trap. Lars placed old parts and scrap metal to make it look like their ship had crashed. They powered up a decoy beacon to draw the bounty hunter to that spot. Then they hid inside a narrow crevice in the rock. They waited. Soon, the bounty ship landed with a loud thud. A tall, armored figure stepped out, scanning the area with a glowing red visor. He walked toward the fake crash, holding a plasma rifle. Lars held his breath. Zyra waited silently, then pressed a small device in her hand. It triggered an EMP burst short range. It's powerful enough to knock out electronics in a tight area. The bounty hunter's rifle died in his hands. His visor flickered. Zyra moved fast. She tackled him from behind, using her body weight and combat skills. The fight was short but rough. Lars watched in awe as she flipped and pinned the hunter without a single wasted move. She stood up, brushing dust from her armor. "He's not alone," she said. "More will come." Lars nodded then. "Let's move again." What really matters back? On the ship, they lifted off quickly and returned to space. They moved deeper into the galaxy, following a route only Zyra's family knew. Each turn took them farther from danger, but also closer to her homeworld Elysis. Zyra sat across from Lars in the small dining area. Her expression was serious. "You could turn back," she said. "Find a safe planet, start a quiet life again. I would understand." Lars shook his head. "I didn't follow you into this just to leave when it gets hard. I'm with you." She looked down. "There's more to this fight than just survival. I have to face my people, and they may not accept a human standing beside me." Lars leaned forward. "Then let them see what I really am. I'm not here to rule or to take sides. I'm here because I care about you." Zyra's eyes softened. "And I care about you, too, Lars. More than I expected." They sat quietly for a moment, the hum of the ship gently surrounding them. Nearing Elise's third journey neared its end. Through the window, Lars saw a green and silver planet in the distant Zyra's home. It shimmered with floating cities, glowing rivers, and long, swirling clouds. But warning beacons blinked red near orbit. Zyra frowned. "There's a blockade. Vorkon has already moved in." Lars stood beside her. "Then we go through." Gave him a determined look. Together. And as they prepared to enter enemy territory, with shields ready and hearts steady, both knew something had changed. What began as a rescue had turned into something powerful. Something worth fighting. For the planet Elysis looked beautiful from space-green forests, silver oceans, floating towers shining under soft sunlight. But between that beauty and Zyra's ship floated a blockade of dark enemy ships. Vorkon had already reached her home, Zyra's. Hands tightened on the controls. They've taken control of orbit. This means he's close. Maybe even already on the surface. Lars stood beside her watching the screen. "How do we get through?" Zyra smiled slightly. "With brains, not force." She turned the ship toward the far side of the planet and flew low through the shadow of one of Elysis's small moons. There, hidden behind debris fields and old mining tunnels, was a secret passage through the atmosphere, one known only to a few noble families. "We'll land far from the capital city," she said. "There's an old outpost my mother used to visit. Safe, quiet. From there, we'll contact the resistance." As they entered the thick clouds of Elysis, the ship shook. Heat flared across the windows, and the shields buzzed. But Zyra guided it smoothly, and soon they broke through into clear sky. Below them stretched wide green valleys and sparkling rivers. Lars stared in awe. "It's beautiful." Zyra looked out quietly. "And it's in danger." The hidden outpost, they landed in a rocky field surrounded by tall silver grass. The outpost was a dome-shaped structure covered in vines and moss, almost invisible from above. Zyra walked ahead, using a small device to open the sealed door. Inside, lights flickered on. Dust floated through the air, but everything still worked. Lars could see signs of old battle scorch marks, damaged walls, but also maps, equipment, and a secure communication table. Zyra activated the console. A blue screen appeared with the face of a woman, tired, fierce, and familiar. "General Taya," Zyra said. The woman on the screen gasped. "Zyra, you're alive?" "Yes, and I'm back. I have the star map." "And a friend." She stepped aside so Taya could see Lars. "A human?" the general asked, confused. Zyra nodded. "He saved my life. Twice now." Taya didn't ask more. She nodded firmly. "We need you both. Meet me at the Ridge of Winds. We'll strike back." "But hurry, Vorkan captured the capital 2 days ago." Lars leaned forward. "What about your family?" Zyra's voice was quiet. "I don't know, but I have to find them." Captured, they didn't make it to the ridge as they moved through the valley in an old transport vehicle. Dark drones flew overhead. Zyra turned the vehicle sharply, trying to escape. A pulse blast hit the back wheel, flipping them sideways. Lars hit the ground hard. His vision spun. He tried to reach Zyra, but figures in dark armor rushed in, surrounding them. She tried to fight, but they shocked her with an electric net and dragged her away. One of the soldiers pointed at Lars. "Take the human alive." A sack was pulled over his head. Everything went black. Inside the prison, Lars woke up in a small metal cell. The walls hummed. There were no windows, only a flickering light above. His arms were tied behind his back with a thick energy band. His head hurt, and his chest felt heavy. The door opened. A tall man entered, wearing black and silver robes with sharp designs. His face was cold, cruel. "I'm Vorkan," he said. Stepping closer, "You must be the human who's caused me so much trouble." Lars didn't speak. Vorkan chuckled. "You have something I need, or rather you know where she hid it." "I know nothing," Lars said honestly. "Not yet." "But pain can teach," Vorkan replied calmly. He turned to the guard. "Begin the memory scan. If the human has seen the map, we'll find it." Lars's heart pounded. He didn't have the map, but he had seen parts of it when Zyra showed him. Would that be enough for Vorkan to trace it? Zyra's plan, in motion, meanwhile, in another part of the prison fortress, Zyra sat in a locked chamber. Her wrists were chained, but her mind was sharp. She had seen the path they took. She knew they were in one of the mountain prisons outside the capital. She had expected this. When Lars suggested they stop running, Zyra made a backup plan. She had hidden a small transmitter under the skin of her forearm, something undetectable. Now, with great pain, she pressed it by twisting her wrist just right. A faint pulse went out, one single signal. And somewhere in the hills near the Ridge of Winds, General Tia's communicator blinked. "She's been captured, the general," he said, "and she's sending us coordinates." The resistance forces began to move. The escape inside his cell. Lars sat silently. The guards had left. The scan machines needed time to prepare. He looked around and noticed something. One of the energy bands holding him flickered slightly. Weak, he shifted his weight and leaned toward the wall. Its boot had a small metal piece from the ship's repair tools. He had hidden it just in case. It took time. Sweat ran down his face. But finally, the band snapped. He was free. Lars opened the door using the guard's control pad, which had been carelessly left on the table. The hallway outside was empty. He ran quietly through the corridor, turning corners and ducking past patrols. He found Zyra locked in a larger cell. "You came," she whispered, shocked. "I told you." "We protect each other," he replied, smiling. Using the same control pad, he unlocked the door. They embraced quickly, then moved fast. Alarms began to blare. But at that moment, just as soldiers appeared at both ends of the hallway, massive explosions shook the fortress. The wall burst open. Rebel forces stormed in, blasters firing. General Taya herself led the charge. Zyra, Lars. This way. Hero reborn. They escaped together, flying through the mountain passes toward the rebel base. Lars looked back at the burning prison. He had never fought in a war, never held a weapon. But today, he helped lead a rescue, and now he was part of something far greater than he ever imagined. Zira held his hand and smiled. You saved me again, Lars. But more than that, you proved you belong in this fight. And now, with the resistance behind them and the final battle ahead, Lars knew exactly who he had become. Not just a mechanic, but someone worth remembering.